Hey,
Hello.
what's that?
What's up? What's up? What's up? So let's talk about the Bible. Choose the topic. So, do you believe the Bible's true?
I believe the Bible contains what the principles that the Creator wants us to know. Yeah.
Now, my question was, do you believe the Bible is true?
What do you mean by that? Do you mean like I believe that every single word
Of the
in the
biblical text is
manuscripts that
true.
we have is included? I believe it contains historical events.
So, the biblical text, right? Do you believe it's true?
Yeah, I believe it contains historical events with principles that we are to learn from it.
Okay. So, you do believe it's true?
When you say do I like
Yes?
I believe that when I read my Bible, yeah, that I believe that the truth is found in here, and I'm aware that there are some certain sections or certain verses that might be like one might in the Old Testament say this king began reigning when he's this years old, and then another one say the same account, oh, he's this years old, but it's like we know there's the discrepancy, but we also know that that was a real king who was ruling. So I wouldn't say that a discrepancy would cause all of a sudden the history about it to be untrue.
So, you are aware that there are corruption that's part of the Bible.
Well, there are certain things, yeah, there's certain like I just mentioned one, but I would say historically though there was a man who walked the earth 2000 years ago, and those who were closest associated to him during the last years of his life tell us what they heard from him, and that is a result of whatever happened to him, because I know you're a
Somebody,
Muslim, so you
somebody
don't believe
said
he
the
was crucified,
lagging. Somebody said the lagging is back slightly. Yeah, you are lagging a little bit.
okay, but a religion began right after Jesus left the earth, proclaiming he was crucified and resurrected.
I just had a simple question though. I want to ask you, do you believe the biblical text, the words in the Bible are true? Or do you believe some of it
Yeah,
is
I think
true?
I answered that. No, I believe all of the
Yeah.
events are
You're not
true,
giving
but
me a
like I
direct
said, there
answer.
might be a discrepancy.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm
you believe
telling you, I
some are
believe
true
it's
and some
true,
are
but
not true.
like it mentions, for example, like I just stated, that it mentions a king reigning and it tells us two different ages of when he began reigning. I'm saying, okay, there's a discrepancy about his age, but the truth is he is still reigning. So I believe that event is true? Yes, I do. Do I recognize that there's a discrepancy about the age? That doesn't mean that that king never reigned.
Right. So you believe the biblical text is true even though it has an inconsistent it's inconsistent about the age.
Yeah,
Or
because we don't, yeah, because it's not like God wrote the book. He had individuals record it, and then they made copies of that copy. So as they're making copies of the original, it, there it's possible that something such as the number could have been slightly miscopied.
right. So historically, what historical evidence do you have that Jesus was crucified?
Well, the New Testament documents are historical documents. Just because they're religious texts don't
Yeah,
mean
I'm
they're
talking about outside of the
historical.
biblical text.
How do you, well, crucifixion was a Roman punishment, and it was occurring outside of Jerusalem, which is where it says that Jesus was crucified. So, I mean, you can't go back physically and prove, say, look, he's crucified, here he is, and here's his cross.
I didn't say proof, I said evidence.
Right, but that the evidence would be pointing towards the proof. So I'm
Yeah.
saying that you can't do that. So what we'd have to do is see what was being taught during that time about what happened. That'd be the only way.
Church fathers or historians, Roman historians or Jewish historians to point back that Jesus was crucified. never
We
looked at any
have,
raw documents.
I stated the documents that we do have recorded about Jesus originated during the time frame of that first century, and there's no reason to exclude them just because they're religious.
Right. So when it comes to the
Because
crucifixion, right?
there's thousands of manuscripts that were found concerning the New Testament and so on. The manuscripts, they believed in the crucifixion. I mean,
I
if you're
understand. I
talking
understand the
about,
manuscripts. I understand what the manuscripts say, but I'm not asking you about manuscripts. I'm asking you outside of the biblical text. What historical evidence do you have using Roman sources and Jewish sources that are not Christian sources? Matter of fact, they could be
well,
Christian.
why
They could
would
be a
I?
church father, anything. It just has to be outside of the biblical text. Because I want to see, does the history
Why
aligns with
wouldn't?
the biblical text?
Well, you don't always have to try to look for outside sources to prove something to be true. Like, sure, that there are some sources that could point it to be true. There's also some things that are recorded that outside historical sources people might use to point to say that these things are not true. So, I mean, I'm saying that here's a document from the first century saying that's what happened. So you can't discredit that.
Well, here's the thing. You as a Christian, you should expect to find some type of, since this was a big historical event, you should expect to find some type of evidence outside of the biblical text that also aligns with your belief.
Oh, I do.
Because it was
I do. For example, you know the Lord's Supper that people say they partake, they eat the bread, they drink the fruit of the vine.
yeah.
I can read about them doing that, and they said the reason that it was introduced was due to Jesus actually going to the cross. It symbolized him passing away. So, and people
And who'd you get that from in history?
oh, we have a first century document telling us the origin of it.
Which first century document?
So you are disagreeing because then we'd be getting into which manuscript, things like that. And you said, oh, you said you can't use the church fathers. The church fathers wrote about, which I would disagree with a lot.
Oh no, you can use them. You can use them. You can use the church fathers.
Okay,
You can
well,
use
the
the church
church
fathers.
fathers acknowledge that they're doing the Lord's Supper, right? What are they doing it for? We have documents that they were using written before they were converted, telling us about the Lord's Supper being based upon the principle that he passed away.
Right. So they can say that about the Lord's Supper. But what I'm trying to understand is, what evidence do they have that it was Jesus who was on the cross crucified?
Because
You
that's
gotta
what
be logical here.
that's
I
why
can't say just because his pencil flipped, that mean he just died yesterday.
no, because look, if you were there, information you would have had, but what you're trying to stand up for is a teaching that came into effect 500 years after they were already teaching what I believe.
1 minute. So I have to be there to know Jesus was crucified?
No, I said that you believe a belief that wasn't introduced until 500 years after what we have recorded of what they were teaching.
The Jewish people could say the same about you, right? We can't go by that logic. If we do, Christianity is out the window.
No, they can't say that about me. Because
They can.
Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was a
Sorry,
Jew.
who came first, Judaism or Christianity?
Judaism.
Exactly. So you can't use that. Exactly. So you can't use that. That same dilemma as you use with Islam, because it will only be bad on your side also. That same dilemma as you use with Islam, because it will only be bad on your side also.
No, because you're trying to point out to what's historically being taught. And historically taught, Jesus was crucified up until you have 500 years later, somebody saying he wasn't crucified and it was somebody who looked like him. So I'm saying that I believe it's different. You're saying that you're trying to bring up
it doesn't matter what was historically taught. I'm asking for historical evidence for what was the
Well,
teachings of.
there's historical evidence that the teaching came first, that it was Jesus who was crucified and not somebody who looked like him.
Yeah, that doesn't make it true because it came first.
Okay, you're asking
Hinduism
about
came
why
first.
I
Does that
believe,
make it true?
you're asking about why I believed that Jesus was crucified and not somebody who
I'm
looked
not
like him.
asking why. I know why you believe that, but I'm
That's
asking
what
what's
you
your
said.
evidence for that?
You said, what's the evidence that it was Jesus and not someone who looked like him? I'm saying the evidence is that the testimonies being circulated was that it was him. That is the evidence.
Which testimony? Who's the person that gave the testimony?
We have
That's outside of the
recorded in
Bible.
here. We have see, look, you're saying besides the Bible, you're
I say
excluding.
outside of the Bible because it's a historical event, right? So I should expect some Jewish historian, Jewish leader, or Roman leader to be saying these things.
Well, this is a historical document. Just because it's religious doesn't mean you get to exclude it. But I have, I guess everyone's saying I'm lagging. So if you wanted to come back and request to join, I'm going to end the live and restart it because everybody's saying that it's lagging really bad.
I mean, you're lagging, but it's not really that bad.
For everybody else, it might be. Maybe not for me and you, because I don't hear any lag. I hear you 100%, no lag whatsoever. But everyone else in the comments is saying there's a really bad lag. So I need to do.
Hey guys, do y'all see? Is he lagging or no?
Yeah, look. It is bad. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but so you're on YouTube Live, right?
Yeah.
How many people are watching?
Well, it's only had 88 views so far.
So you must got a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. So, where do we leave off at? Okay, so yeah, the church fathers.
No, what we were talking about is you said, why do I believe that it was Jesus? What's the evidence that it was Jesus who was crucified and not someone who looked like him? I said that the testimony, what we have written, was that it was him who was crucified, and the idea that it wasn't him and that it was someone who looked like him came 500 years after the testimonies we have recorded.
Yeah, can you give me historical evidence outside of the biblical text?
See, look, you're looking at because the historical text, it's not just these, like these, for example, the book of John might be one text, but it was copied and it was circulated broadly. Same thing with all these letters, right? Say, for example, the book of Romans or the letter to the Galatians. It's one letter, but there's dozens, hundreds, and we learn there's thousands of
listen, I'm not asking you about John.
So I know you're saying, give me any historical evidence other than the historical evidence we do have. That's exactly what you're saying. Like, and it shouldn't be difficult to see that these are documents that are, if you have done research, to see that these are historical documents that they believe were being circulated in the first century. What
historical documents?
The ones we have in the New Testament, Matthew through Revelation, were all written prior to 100 AD.
Are you aware those are documents that you have in your biblical text does not align with history?
Yeah.
And yet you're claiming the crucifixion is a historical event.
Yeah, the New Testament, the documents written prior to 100 AD, these documents contain the belief system that there was a man named Jesus who was crucified. And here you believe in somebody who came 500 years later saying that these documents are not true.
Why'd you keep using that 500 years later thing? I told you, if we go by that same logic. Listen. No. Let's go by that same logic.
It's showing that.
Let's go by that same logic.
It's showing. No, because you're asking about this. We're not talking about something 500 years previous to Jesus. If you want to talk about that, we could talk about that. We're talking about why I believe what we have written.
But you're basing that time based upon truth, correct?
I'm saying that what you believe came 500 years after.
So what?
That'd be the same thing like I come along today and make up something new. What's the difference?
But it's about, is it true or false? It's not about the time.
What's the difference between 500 years and 2,000 years? If it's a made up teaching, it's made up.
So you're basing truth based upon time. Really?
No, I'm saying that these documents were being circulated in the first century and they.
Okay, so why do you keep mentioning the 500 years thing? So what?
because it predates the belief that you hold to. The belief that you hold to wasn't introduced for over 500 years.
And you believe that makes it false because your belief came first.
I'm saying that when we look at what was being circulated about what people believed, it's not what you believe.
Yeah, of course it's not what I believe. But that's a fallacy to say, oh, your belief came 500
It
years
did.
later, and it changed up everything. Sir, if you look at the Gnostic Gospels, what do they say about the crucifixion? What do they say?
Okay. So, so
This is
you,
not something new.
so you're discrediting because we have the book of Romans written prior to 100 AD talking about the crucifixion of
That's
Jesus.
an illogical fallacy.
No, we have a document written prior to 100 AD written about the crucifixion of Jesus. You're saying that this document lied?
Yes. BTW. BTW. I know you don't have any historical evidence that Jesus was crucified because you haven't given me any yet. So what I'm going to do for you,
We did.
I'm going to let you use the biblical text.
Okay, you want me to show you where the biblical text say that it says he was crucified?
No, I agree the biblical text says that, right? But my original question that I asked you was outside of the Bible, what historical evidence do you have that Jesus was crucified? You haven't given me an answer yet for
I
that.
don't I don't have to give you outside sources because you're asking for sources and I'm telling you what they are and you're saying no, give me more.
This is a historical event, correct? That aligns with your biblical text.
And we have historical documents that talk about what historically happened.
What? Can you repeat that?
We have historical documents telling us what historically happened.
Yeah, give me a historical document, Roman document outside of the Bible, a Jewish document that says Jesus was crucified outside of the Bible.
Wait, you want it Roman or Jewish or both?
Either or, your choice.
So if you want one, I believe Luke was actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Luke, let me see what they say. Okay, well Luke they say could have possibly been a Gentile, and we have the book of Luke. And the
A
book of Luke
Gentile.
talks about the crucifixion.
Yeah. So you said Luke, correct?
It said he's a possible. They say that scholars consider him to possibly have been a Gentile. Some say they believed he might have been a Hellenized Jew, but the book of Luke would be a Gentile document, which, according to you, that's Roman, right? So here's a Roman document which talks about the crucifixion of Jesus.
You believe Luke is an eyewitness?
Who said I said that?
No, I'm asking you, do you believe Luke is an eyewitness? Luke wasn't there.
We
Luke
don't.
just
Yeah, we
heard.
don't have. Okay, but that's what I'm saying is that the news being circulated was that Jesus was crucified. You're not understanding.
I understand that people are saying that Jesus is crucified, but I'm saying what's the evidence for that? Right?
Okay.
Luke
Yeah,
Luke
I
was
gave you
not
the
there.
evidence. I gave you the evidence, and I'm not going to waste my time keep repeating myself because there's a lot of individuals out there who do have good questions, and we're just going in circles.
These are good questions. You're just not
They're not.
understanding. Look,
I
Luke
answered it
was not
multiple
there.
times.
Listen, Luke was not there, right?
But did
He just
Luke?
heard about it.
Okay, did Luke have a recollection of the stories that were being circulated?
Yes, he got a collection of stories. Yeah.
Okay, so
That
that
doesn't make him true though.
okay, but that tells us those were the stories being circulated. Out of all the stories that he was hearing, he recorded, he said to the best of his ability, the accuracy of what really took place.
It doesn't make it true.
Okay, well,
If I,
all
listen,
right.
let
Well,
me give you an example.
no, I'm not gonna continue this
Just one
conversation.
example. Just one example. One example.
No, I'm not gonna continue that conversation. Because then you have an individual saying, "Read my book, believe my book," right? That's really individuals want you to join their side, but or join the side that they're on. But I believe the earliest teachings say that Jesus was crucified, and if somebody came 500 years later saying it wasn't him, it was actually someone who looked like him. And they say it was Judas. Some Muslims that I've come across and met, they say that Judas was crucified not Jesus. But then you have historically what's being circulated about Judas is that he went and he ended up unaliving himself. So that doesn't even match up with the stories being circulated in the first century about Jesus. So you have Muslims, who is a religion that came 500 years after Jesus, claiming different stories about both Jesus and Judas. Yeah, I think that I just believe what they believed previous to that.